Are you in your late 40s, early 50s, maybe even mid or late 50s, and you're finding that the makeup and skincare products that you used to love just aren't working on your skin the way they used to? Or maybe you're just getting into makeup or coming back to makeup, and you're just having trouble finding products that work for you. Well, I was in the same position a few years ago, and I made a lot of mistakes trying to find new products that would work with this aging over 50 skin of mine. And these mistakes cost me a lot of money and some skin irritation as well. And so I wanted to share those mistakes with you today. In fact, sharing what I learned through that process was one of the key motivators for starting this YouTube channel in the first place. So if you'd like to hear what I learned in that process and what I am continuing to learn to this day, then stick around, because maybe when you hear the 7 mistakes I made, it'll save you from making them as well. If you would, indulge me for just a couple of minutes while I tell you a little bit about my makeup history. I started wearing makeup back in my teens, probably 13. I was a dancer, so I actually had worn makeup before that, but only for recitals and shows and that kind of thing. Of course, when I started wearing it when I was 13, it was very light, but by the time I was 16 or so, I was wearing a full face of makeup to school every day, and that continued through my 20s and probably most of my 30s, even though when I had my first child at 28, I became a stay-at-home mom. We still went out most days to the store or to playgroups or that kind of thing, and so I did fix my face every day. Amazingly, at that time, all of the makeup I owned fit in one small drawer in my vanity in the bathroom. But then when I was in my late 30s, we had a major life change. We moved out of the city and moved back to the country, building a house on the farm where my husband grew up. And I just got out of the habit of putting on makeup every day. I would wear a little to church on Sundays or for special occasions, but from that point through most of my 40s, I just didn't bother. And then as I approached my 50s, I started back into the workforce on a part-time basis, and I started substitute teaching. And I just feel more put together when I have my makeup done. I'd had a small collection of things because, like I said, I did kind of wear it on Sundays or whatever, but I wasn't wearing it on a consistent basis. But when I started wearing makeup again on a daily basis, I realized that these products were just not helping me to look the way I wanted to look. But I had no idea where to go to find the information I needed to see what would work, until my oldest daughter discovered the YouTube beauty scene in fall of 2018 as she was preparing for her wedding the following March. And so she told me about all of these creators that she found, and then I discovered more mature creators on the platform. I believe Angie Hot and Flashy was the first one I ever watched, and I was just so relieved to find women like me who were struggling with aging skin and products that were not created to work well with aging skin. And so I jumped in and started trying products, but I made a lot of big mistakes. I think the biggest mistake I made, and if you only take one thing from this video, I hope it's this, and that was to not pay attention to the skin type of the creator that I was watching. I have oily combo skin. I'm pretty oily through the T-zone, normal everywhere else, and I do have lines and wrinkles around my eyes. I don't have very many lines in my forehead. I do kind of have the 11s, but I'm really not able to raise my eyebrows, and it's not because I've had any Botox or anything, because I haven't. I just can't do it. I can squeeze them together, but I can't really raise them. And honestly, that was a discovery that I made really recently. Unfortunately, many of the creators that I was watching had very dry skin, which is very common to happen as we age, our skin gets drier. But when you start out as a grease pit, and then you get a little bit drier, you kind of are happy with that because you're kind of getting more into normal, but I can still get pretty oily by the end of the day. And so when one of these creators who had dry skin would recommend a foundation, it wouldn't work for me. It either didn't give me enough coverage, or it broke up on my face in a very short amount of time. It didn't last, it got patchy or whatever, until I realized that I needed to find creators with oily skin. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot in the over 50 category on YouTube, which was another reason I started my channel. However, I did find Sabrina, and our skin types were very similar, so a lot of the products that she was recommending I found I was able to use, but I had to stay away from some of the more full coverage products that she recommended. And that brings me into the next mistake, which is not paying attention to the preferences of the creator, and as a corollary, not knowing what your preferences are. For example, you're watching a creator who loves full coverage, full glam, powder, setting spray, the whole 9 yards, but you're more into a minimal, light coverage, no makeup look. There's going to be a disconnect there between the products that creator is recommending and the ones you are going to be happy with. And kind of associated with not stopping to consider what I wanted from my makeup, what I had been used to wearing and what frankly was in fashion at the time in 2019, 2020 was a more full coverage face. And I'm really kind of glad that we've gotten away from that and gone to a more natural skin finish, satiny kind of look. I didn't like the glass skin look because I feel like it just looks greasy, and I battled that my whole life. But I think for me, the most flattering finish on my skin is a more natural satin finish. That might be different for you. You might prefer something completely different. You might love looking glowy and dewy because you have desert dry skin, and that just makes your skin feel hydrated and healthy. If my preference is different than your preference, that doesn't mean that one of us is wrong. It just means it's different. And so you need to take that into account if I or someone else is recommending a product. The third mistake I made was related to skincare, and that was trying too many products too quickly. This is the one that I said ended up with some skin irritation. Yeah. For a long time, I got the Ipsy Glam Bag, and then I switched over to the Ipsy Glam Bag Plus, which when you are exploring makeup and wanting to try new things is a great way to do that. But it's also a great way to get a lot of products that you have absolutely no use for. And unfortunately for me, because I really wanted makeup products, but fortunate for you if you want this, many of those boxes do have a lot of skincare products in them. And if you are adding a lot of different skincare products at one time, or you are switching them and using something different all the time, one, if something is working, you're not going to know what it is because you've tried too many things and you're not going to be able to isolate which one or which combo of things is the one that made a difference. And two, you're not giving it enough time to be able to tell if it's actually working. Skincare products you need to use at least a month fairly religiously in order to see if you're getting any results. Some things you can tell as soon as you put them on your skin, it just feels good. But for any long-term results, you just need time. And if you're switching things up too much, you're not going to be able to tell that. This is sort of a 3A mistake, but I'm still keeping it here under the skincare. And that mistake was not thinking in terms of ingredients and what my skin needed. I do plan on doing a skincare video, and I want to talk about that. How to match up your skin needs with the ingredients that are in skincare products so that you are targeting what you need and not wasting a lot of money on ingredients that help problems that you don't even have. And so when I started thinking in terms of ingredients and crafting my skincare regimen around the ingredients that I wanted to have versus just trying this serum and adding in this one and another cream and then not really knowing what they were all doing, I got much better results. The fourth mistake I made was continually looking for the best foundation, the best concealer, the best highlighter. And the mistake there is this: there is no best. If you're looking for products that work and look good on your skin, when you find one that does, you can stop looking. You don't have to keep buying the next new release to see if it's going to be just a little bit better than what you already have. Now, it's fun to try new things, and I'm not saying that you should never try a new release, but if the reason you're trying new things all the time is because of discontentment or the fear of missing out on something amazing, if you're happy with what you're using, then just keep using it. And when that's gone, then try that new thing. But if you, like me, have gotten a little overwhelmed with the size of your inventory and you have products that you are happy with using, then just keep using them. And when you use something up, then you can experiment with something new. The fifth mistake I made was having a collection mentality rather than an inventory mentality. And I have talked about this a little in previous videos. Back in 2016 to 2019, 2020, it was all the rage to collect an entire series of a company's palette release or their blush range or a lipstick range, something like that. You wanted to have the collection. The problem with that is you might not have really liked everything in the collection. And so you have it, it's in a basket or on the shelf, but you never reach for it. But it's not like your grandma's Hummel collection or your coffee mug collection that you get a new coffee mug every time you go on a trip. those can stay in the cabinet for decades. And unless somebody drops one, they're probably going to still be usable. Makeup expires, and within a few years, that collection that you purchased and put in your basket or on your shelf and never used is going to be unusable. And I didn't really fall into that mentality too much, but it wasn't because I didn't want to, it was because I couldn't afford to. And so because of finances, I did have to be a little bit more picky about what I bought. I couldn't just buy to fill in a collection. The change came for me when I started thinking about my makeup in terms of inventory and not collection. And I like to think about it in terms of like inventory in a kitchen, because those are also ingredients that expire. And in your kitchen inventory, you have the basics. You have flour and sugar and oils and things that you use in a lot of different scenarios, and they get turned over fairly rapidly, and they're pretty much just staples. And for me, those are things like mascaras and eyebrow pencils, and in some respects, primers and setting sprays, that sort of thing. They're more functional instead of the glamour of the color cosmetics. And then in your kitchen, you have other ingredients that you need to make dishes, or you have spices that stay on the shelf for a longer time, but they're still kind of staples. It just kind of fills it out. And then you have those gourmet ingredients, those things that you only use once in a while, but you want them there on the shelf. And yes, they might expire and you have to throw away a half full container because you don't use them very often, but you want them there. And they add zing and spice and flavor and variety to the dishes you make. And there are things like that in my makeup collection as well. I may not use them very often, but when I want them to be there. And for me, those are things like more colorful eyeshadow palettes. The thing I realized with those, though, is I don't need 5 rainbow palettes. For the amount of time that I do that colorful of a look, 1 is sufficient. It provides enough variety that I don't get bored with it, but I don't have these 5 palettes sitting there mocking me because I'm not using them. Neutral palettes, however, I have a lot, and I have no regrets that I have a lot because I do like the variety of switching up the formula, switching up the shimmers, using just a little bit something different once in a while. So collection mentality took me down a road of spending a lot of money I didn't need to spend, whereas inventory mentality helps me manage what I bring in and allows me to use up what I have as well. The 6th mistake I made was getting sucked in by the marketing gimmicks and sometimes by the packaging. Have you ever bought a makeup item just because it was in a pretty package? I have. And I regretted it because the product that was inside wasn't so great. And you're not going to just be looking at the packaging. You want to use what's inside. Obviously, the win-win is when the pretty packaging has an amazing product inside. And then that's not a waste of money. You're enjoying the product and you're enjoying looking at it. The marketing gimmicks I'm talking about are things like Ulta's 21 Days of Beauty. I hate that sale. And the reason I hate that sale is because I don't live anywhere near an Ulta. I'm at least an hour away from one. And so if there's something for sale on the 1st day and the 5th day and the 7th day that I really want or I need because it's a replacement of something, and I order those things, I'm going to pay shipping 3 times. Or I'm going to think that I need to buy enough to get free shipping, and then I'm going to spend money on things that I didn't need in order to not pay shipping. And so I pretty much just boycott the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty. I don't even look at what's on sale because I want to just be able to get the things I want all at one time. The other marketing gimmick I've fallen for is the limited edition. That fear of missing out, oh man, it's strong. And when there's a release and it's pretty and you kind of want it, but it's a little bit more than you want to spend, but man, it's not going to be available again. They do this too, especially at holiday time. It's tough to pass and then see it go away and not be able to get it again. Usually this is eyeshadow for me. But what I've started doing is looking at that palette and then going into my inventory and opening palettes and looking and being like, oh, this is kind of a similar color story. Or if I use these 2 palettes, I could probably do the same thing. And it really helps to ease that fear of missing out. Because let's face it, if we have a moderately sized eyeshadow inventory, then we're probably going to be able to dupe a lot of the things that come out. But occasionally there is something unique or something that I really want, and then I will go ahead and purchase it. I have the Nomad Haunted Europe on its way to me right now. I love Nomad. Their formula is amazing. Their shimmers, their duochromes, really, really pretty eyeshadow. However, there are a lot of Nomad palettes I don't like because the colors are just too bright. They're not something that I wear. I'll talk more about that on my last mistake that I made. And so when they re-released Haunted Europe, I decided that I wanted to get it. I don't think Nomad was even on my radar when Haunted Europe first came out because it's expensive and I really wasn't buying palettes that were more than $20 at the time. This one, I had a gift card that I'd gotten for my birthday that I had saved to use when something came up that I really, really wanted. And so I used it on this. Marketing is a psychological game. They know the human mind. They know what works on our emotions. They know what gives us that dopamine hit that keeps us coming back for more and more and more. So just be aware. And if there's something that you want, put it in your cart, take a step back, go do something else, wait a day or two, come back, see if you really still want it. Was it just the hype and the excitement of getting something new that made you want it? Or was it a fear of missing out? Or was it something else in the marketing that pulled you in? Or is it something that truly fills a hole in your inventory or that you're just really, really excited about? The idea for me was to be more conscious about my purchases and to only buy those things that I was really excited about and that I knew that I would really use. Which brings me to my final mistake, and that was buying makeup for the makeup wearer I thought I should be instead of the makeup wearer that I actually am. And to be fair, some of it I didn't know. I had to learn about myself, what kind of makeup wearer I actually am. But I had this idea or this fantasy self who wore makeup with bright, bold eye looks all the time and who loved shadow sticks and single shadows. And I'm not. And I tell you what, that fantasy chick, she cost me lots of money. But I think I have successfully reined her in. And I'm more realistic about what I like in my makeup. And I'm more comfortable with that. I think at the beginning of my channel, especially, I thought that I had to do all of that in order to be successful. But I realized that I don't. There are people who do that really, really well. And I love watching for the artistry of it and that kind of stuff. But there are also a lot of people out there who want to see neutral, natural, everyday makeup on an almost 60-year-old face. And so that's what I'm embracing and what I'm comfortable with. How about you? Have you made any of these 7 mistakes? Or maybe you've made others of your own. Share down in the comments. I would love to get a conversation going. Have a beautiful, blessed day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.